You ever had delicious, ooey gooey baked brie? Yeah? Did you love it? Have you ever made it yourself? Well, if you haven't, then you don't know how easy it is to make. Super duper easy. So today, I'm gonna show you a really simple and delicious version that we created here at Martha. I'm just unfolding a pound of puff pastry. This is all butter puff. It comes in a 14-ounce container. I'm just gonna leave that for 1 second while I get one more component ready. It's a half a cup of toasted pecans that I'm gonna grind up in the food processor. Wait till you see what I'm gonna do with these nuts. You wanna get them nice and fine, and then what you do is you sprinkle those toasted pecans over 1/2 of your unfolded puff pastry. Notice I haven't rolled it out yet, I haven't done anything. I'm just unfolding it, sprinkling the nuts over one side. You wanna do it as evenly as possible so you don't have nut clumps. In essence, what you're doing is creating a whole extra layer in your puff pastry, but the extra layer is crunchy, toasty pecans. Spread them out. You might want to leave a little bit of an edge because now what you want to do is take the other half of the dough and fold it over the top of the nuts and then pinch the edges or just press the edges so that they seal. Now what you have is dough encasing nuts. I'm going to just flip this over and get some flour on my parchment paper. Try to get your package as even as possible, and then what you want to do is cut it crosswise into 2 pieces. This piece you can set aside for just a sec. I'm going to put it onto this baking sheet right here. And actually while I'm doing that, I'm just going to press these edges to seal the nuts in on this side, because this was the cut side, and then do the same thing on the piece that I have on my board. And then roll this piece out to an 8-inch square. You want to make sure that you're working with very nice, cool dough so that it doesn't start sticking. I like to work on a piece of parchment paper. So in case it starts to get too warm, if your kitchen is very warm, it happens sometimes, you need to throw it back in the refrigerator or pop it in the freezer for a second. It's easy to lift up and move. Now what you want to do is take your brie. No, that's not the supermoon, it's a brie. And brush it with some Dijon mustard. I'm starting with a tablespoon for the first side. Brush it all over one piece of brie like that. This is just about 1 pound. Turn it over, place it mustard side down, and then brush it the other side with mustard. If you want a grainy mustard, you could use that. I know some people who would probably put honey mustard on here. That is not what I like, but I'm not going to tell on you if you do it. I just need to set this aside for a second. This piece should get rolled out to 9 inches. 9 inches is approximate. You want it big enough to drape over the top of the brie and then come to the edges so that it can seal, and I'll show you what I mean because I'm going to bring this here. Just drape your dough over the brie. Can stretch it just slightly if necessary so that it meets on all the edges, and then go around your dough with your hands and just sort of make sure that your brie is fully encased in kind of a nice tight little package. So press the dough against the edges and then cut around the dough, leaving about a 1/2 inch on all sides. Now, because I want to make this pretty, I'm going to re-roll my scraps and cut out some leaf shapes. Normally, I would never re-roll scraps of puff pastry because it ruins all those meticulous layers that they have created for you. But in fact, when you're making decorations, it's okay for it to be a little bit less puffy because it maintains the designs that you put into it better if it's actually not as puffy. So in this one instance, I say it's okay to re-roll puff pastry. Normally, not so much. If you have time or the inclination, you can let this rest for a little while before you start trying to roll it out, and it will be much easier to get thin. Because you do want your dough pretty thin for these. Otherwise, your leaves will be clunky. In order for your shapes to not lose their shape once they're cut, lift your dough up and then flop it back down, and it'll spring back on itself a little bit, and then it won't lose its shape as much because it will already have sprung back. You'll want it springing back after you cut your shapes. Cut out some leaves, maybe a different shaped leaf. It's completely up to you. What's your theme? What do you want to put on here? You don't have to decorate the top if you don't want to, but it does make it quite festive. There are my leaves, very, very cute. If you want to further enhance them, you can use a paring knife to score little veins in the leaves and then transfer them to the sheet with the brie. This whole thing is going to go into the freezer for a few minutes to firm everything up. If you find your decorations are getting too soft, you can actually chill them first and then score them if you want to. Might be slightly easier to work with and they won't get pulled out of shape with your knife. Get these into the freezer for about 20 minutes to firm up and have your oven preheating to 400 degrees. Okay, it's nice and chilled. What you want to do now is make a little egg wash. Just one egg is fine. You can add a little bit of water if you want to loosen it. This will make it shiny, it will make it golden. I'm gonna actually trim the edges just a little bit more here on the corners. I don't want this part to burn, and I thought all of a sudden, I was like, you know what, it might burn. So, getting rid of it. So now what you do is you brush your brie all over with the egg wash. Oops. Then you can put your decorations on top. Brush your cutouts with egg wash as well. You could actually do this before you place them on there, and in fact, if you wanted to, you could do it before you put them in the freezer, but I like to do it all at once. There we are. And then you just get this into your oven. You want to bake it at 400 degrees for 30 minutes, and then reduce the temperature to 350 degrees and bake it until it's golden brown and bubbling. That'll take another 20 to 25 minutes. And if you need to, it might be darkening a little bit too much, you can tint it with foil. Is that amazing? It's so beautiful. And it's so, so easy. You can make this ahead, you can leave it in your refrigerator overnight, and then you can bake it off whenever you want to serve it, and everybody is gonna be completely blown away. Give it a try. It's baked brie with pecans. Delish.